Welcome back to Noah Guy Bicycles, hanging with the guy. Hey, I'm Justin the Guy on this whole bike series. Well, this whole part series on this particular installment of the bottom bracket. Yes, it is a spindle ball cup system that's adjustable. Okay, what you're saying, Justin, they're all like ball bearings with cups and cartridges. Yeah, fast forward to today, they're just press fit bearings that go in there, which is a great installment, or also cartridge systems, which is actually a lot easier to work with. But back in the day, we're talking about these bottom brackets where they were adjustable, and you'd have to like repack them on occasion. So we're going to dive in this particular one. It is definitely vintage. It does feel kind of really tight. So hopefully it's still intact. I would hate to try to have to source something from this era, but we'll see. Hopefully, if anything needs to be replaced, is the ball bearings. Well, the great part about these particular bottom brackets is you can work on them. You can adjust them and those kind of benefits, but it does add the question, how waterproof are they? Do they last very long? Honestly, they don't last nearly as long as the new cartridge systems. If this one was going to have to be replaced, I'd slap a cartridge system in there in a heartbeat. But in any case, we're going to review one of these just in case you have one at home and you want to dive into it and what tools you're going to need. It's going to be tricky, so hold on your hats. Welcome to Noah Guy Bicycles. Welcome to Noah Guy Bicycles, hanging out with the guy. Hi, I'm Justin the Guy. Obviously, I have a garage shop. Taking scary how to use bikes one bike at a time. If you like these videos, please like and subscribe. So you might want to ask, what tools do we need? Justin, what kind of tools do we need? These classic beauties. My goodness, you're like, what is this? This goes, no. This is actually basically the tool that you need to get the fixed cup side off and also the adjuster ring off. And then you have the spanner, which I don't think they make these anymore, because when I looked for them, I couldn't find them. So I actually had to buy a used set. Crazy. They probably have them out there somewhere. SPA-2 is this one, which is a shorter profile. Then they have one that has a even shorter profile on it, which is the dash SPA-1. Okay, I did get these new. I was looking for the yellow one, which I remember back in the day, that's way out in the shop, and that one I couldn't find. But this will work. They also make these, or had make these, with like kind of a slot for those old school slotted ones. But this one actually has the pins. So we're going to have these ready to go. Let's dive into this. All right, we get to use the hook. Very sinister. This particular lock ring is to loosen, it goes forward, to tighten, it goes this direction. So you want to loosen it up. Some of these did have a kind of like a pin here where they'd pivot. This one's a fixed gear. And you got to really hold the frame good, and that loosens that lock ring up. So you unscrew that guy out. Next is the pin. Also want to note they made like these cheapos here where you actually can replace those. And you can get in there, but these are nicer because they're not fixed, so you can kind of adjust your spanner wrench. The reason why there's two tapered versions, if you have the crank arm on there and need to adjust it, that's what you're going to need to use. I've seen a lot of shops with these lower profile ones that still need to be lower profile. They take them to the grinder and grind these down at an angle so they can slide this tool underneath. Okay, so here we have it. And you get these boogers lined up in here. You got to press in a lot of force this way to make sure the tool stays in position, so you can go counterclockwise to loosen it up. Sometimes it'll stick into place on the newer tools. If your tool is used, it may pop right out. So that takes out that adjuster cup. And be careful, you might have ball bearings drop right out, so you want to be very careful. I'm pulling the axle this direction. So, and trick is you put your palm underneath it, so if it does lose those ball bearings, there they are. And it's, at least it's in a cage, so that way you can actually clean it up pretty well. Okay, this is when you have your nasty rag you know you're going to end up throwing it away. You pull this guy out, and you notice this is kind of hollow through here. Well, quite honestly, this is not the best design to have, but some of these older, high-end, nice custom builds had like nice little cutouts. So yes, when water gets up in this area, it can contaminate the internal area, but actually this looks pretty clean from rust. And what you're looking for is this race here on the actual spindle on both sides. And keep in mind which direction. These are longer and shorter, so you want to make sure when you pull this out which one's which. And it's usually when you read it upright, that's the direction it goes, but you want to take note when you're taking this out, that is the way it needs to go back in. Because if you put it in backwards, those chain rings are going to smash up against the frame and you can scratch up that frame. So you want to make sure that spindle length, and it doesn't matter if it's a double or triple, same concept on these old guys. And sometimes they'll have like a actual model on here too, stamp. This is 68W, 68 with shell. That's what it says it is. And these are actually in really good condition, as in the sides are all kind of cleans up and flush. So I think we're going to be really good. It just needs to be cleaned up. Okay, who's ready to rake some knuckles? This is where I've spashed myself several times trying to get these things off. Hopefully it's loose like this side here, so I don't have to do a lot of force. But you want the tool to fit flush both up and down on both sides. And when you hold this in place, you want to give a little love tap. Like I'm going to tap it underneath here. As you see how that pops up? Yeah, that's where the callus of these were kind of a pain. Okay, kind of feel it give. Oh, hear the all grindy crunchiness going on. You hear that? Same thing. You want to put your hand down, catching any loose ball bearings if they do pop out. We just have another cage. We're good to go. And then I'll clean this area up. And this is where, if I had the $300 to $500 facing tool, you would thread in here and clean these sides up. I don't have that because, of course, they're $300 to $500. So I don't have that. So I'm actually going to clean this up as much as I can. It's not totally terribly necessary. It is a nice higher end feature. One of these days I will invest in those. But then again, I don't carve into these frames all that often. So I'm just basically trying to get all these threads greased, clean, all that grit and grime cleared out. And you got a little attention to details. You got like a little star type thing here and both sides. These are brazed. That means the tubing goes in there and it's kind of soldered together. It's a brazing weld versus like your bead weld. Very beautiful, intricate. Some of the nice high-end ones you've seen, like these will be like chromed out, and it's just really kind of cool what they've done back in the day to build these things up, put them in a jig and do all this very fancy soldering. So yeah, I think we're good here. On to cleaning that bottom bracket. Pardon the interruption, there is more. More you say? Push the more button. Push it. Push it. I dare you to push it. Once you push that button, you get more details about the video you are watching, in addition to all the tools that I use in the shop, as well as suggestion for improving your ride. In addition to help me provide advocacy in the cycling community, also links to other social media accounts as well as my website to find the products that I actually sell and other insights in the industry. Other videos linked below. Extend your cycling experience here on YouTube. And now back to your original programming. So, like the headset that we did earlier, we're going to do the same kind of thing. We're going to take these ball bearings out. Hopefully they stay retained in their cages. And if you lose the cage or the cage is compromised, basically the cage is designed to take away one ball bearing. So you can take the cage out and just loosely pack these in. But if the cage is still intact, I highly recommend still using it. Just because of ease of taking apart like so. And then you want to clean these guys out. What you're looking for is any pits. You want it to be smooth. That's what you want. It's like a smooth race all the way around where those ball bearings roll up against. And quite honestly, I'm getting a feeling on this bike that it was put together and never really used. Because, I mean, that is almost new. It's just like old grease over time. Same thing here. This looks very, very clean. So that, in a sense, is a gem. This frame was actually built up. So what you're seeing here, as in parts, it was not OEM. I don't know if they were OEM. I'd have to see if we can do some research on that. But the particular frame this gentleman got was just the frame itself, and he built it up. So that's where we've seen a year gap in the frame and the parts. But see, it's kind of, this grease over time just dries up, gets gunky. But you can see with a little bit of carb cleaner or brake cleaner, whichever you want to use, I'd suggest using Clean Streak from White Lightning. But for us economical savvy people, this works just as well. Just need to be careful around paint. But see that? Pretty clean. Those are awesome. Now we just need to clean these in the solvent tank. I'm sorry, the ultrasonic tank, and get all that cleaned out, dried, and then we'll reassemble. So yep, you caught me. While the bearings were washing, I actually detailed the frame so it's nice and shiny. So here we are at it. The bearings are definitely cleaned out and dry. You can, oh, it sounds like new. So what we need to do is make sure these are clean from all debris. Then we take our bearing grease and put a thin layer inside, drop the bearings out, that cage is in, so where this spindle will make the contact with those bearings, like so. And sometimes you just take a finger dip of grease and you just pack that in good, like so. Yeah, get a new container, there we go. Yeah, you want to be very liberal with this, since that has an exposed bottom bracket area. You definitely want to make sure there's plenty of grease. A little too much. Yeah, like so, nice and packed. Well, now we need to install the fixed side first. Then we put the spindle in. Then we tighten the adjuster cup in. Then we use the lock ring. Right in that order. Yeah, I'm still figured I'd polish this up with the bottom bracket out. Yeah, and it turned out to be quite beautiful. But we're going to do the drive side first. Then we're going to work our way to the non-drive side. And again, since the crankset's not going to be on there, we have to put the crankset on there to do the final adjustment. We'll go over that too. So I want to make sure this is all buffed out and ready to go. So the easiest way to remember which direction these go is going forward like you're pedaling is to loosen, to go backwards on both sides is to tighten. So you want to be very careful not to cross thread this, and it should go in hopefully fairly smoothly, because the teeth on these, on the threads, are pretty big. And if these seem to be boogered up, you can take it to your shop. They'll be able to chase that. Price on that will vary amongst your shops. So you want to get this to be tight, and don't have to hammer tight it, but you definitely want to make sure it's get your teeth tight. There you go. Okay, you can see my hands and how I'm a surgeon like this. This way, keep that tool and your lock ring on one hand. Remember, we're looking for the direction, longer on this side, shorter on that side. Follow the actual stamped lettering on this guy. Slide it through, and then take our cup. Same thing, threading backwards as we're pedaling. You want to make sure if you think you got it, then you can use your tool to kind of guide it through. If you feel it starting to bind like it's cross-threading, stop. And again, take it to a shop to get threaded. This guy is doing just fine. So we're going to tighten this down to where it kind of stops. So it's going to press against those bearings. You got a little excess grease, that's fine. We'll definitely clean that up. So, and this is where you do not ever want to spray with these type of bottom brackets any kind of degreaser, especially up in this area. It's already going to have a fighting scenario trying to keep water from getting in there. So that feels way smoother than it was prior. And these have a side to them. See, there's a flat side and more of an oval side. The oval side goes on the outside. And same thing, backwards on that guy. And what I'm going to do is not compress it too tight. Feel it tug, and back it off a little bit. Then lock that lock ring down. So the idea is you want this to be smooth, but not loose. Smooth as you can get it, but not loose. So I keep adjusting that until it stops knocking. Then I'll readjust it again when I have the crankset on there because you'll have more leverage. So there's that. Then we take our hook, tighten that lock ring. Wow, man, that feels so much smoother. But I think it's a little loose. But let's throw that crankset on real quick. All right, cold well contact. So, like so. And once you have these guys on, you can see how tight it is in there. So hopefully that's not loose. So yeah, we're gonna need a, so what I'm gonna do is tighten up one side and take this side off. I think I have enough leverage on this side so I can feel it being a little loose. So get my hook in there, spanner wrench. Yep, try not to scarf the paint. Just 3 to 5 millimeters tighter. There we go. Okay, that is definitely the case. So if your tool is too tight to get in there, that's a trick. Just take the left crank arm off and adjust it using your right. And then just make sure this is tight. Yep, we're good. Then put the crank arm on. Voila. So here we have it. Nice and smooth. Yeah. Oh boy, that's a lot smoother and actually tight. So when this was assembled, it wasn't assembled, I would say, not correctly, just kind of thrown together. It's probably somebody individual that put it together themselves and wasn't able to didn't have the know-how, right? So here you go. Now you know the know-how to take these apart, clean them, put them back together, and do a little adjustment and make sure they're ready to go for the next 1,000 miles or so. Well, thank you for hanging out with me in the garage. Until next time, have a wonderful day.